Mandela is kill. No. Gets me every time. What is your favorite creepypasta? What's up, my brother from another mother? All dad jokes aside, hope you're doing well and glad you came for another story time with your bro, Andrew. Majority of the guys that watch these videos don't sub, so prove them wrong by doing so. Also like the video as well. If you do, I'll make sure they ban TikTok in America. Anyways, let's get into the stories. Normal porn for normal people is terrifying. I'm not going to link it for your own safety. I remember this phase one had. I read so many creepypasta, one after another, for days. I don't know if it's because I read so many, but the last one I read really got to me. I had to stop reading them for a couple days. I really liked the smiling man, one of my first. But funny mouth creeped me the hell out. A young scientist named Robert Pickett is working late one night in his lab. He is running tests on a specimen when an eerie sight catches his eye. The specimen began to rise. And suddenly, to his surprise, he did the mash. He did the monster mash. The monster mash. It was a graveyard smash. He did the mash. It caught on in a flash. He did the mash. He did the monster mash. It has been reported that some victims of torture during the act would retreat into a fantasy world from which they could not wake up. In this catatonic state, the victim lived in a world just like their normal one, except they weren't being tortured. The only way that they realized they needed to wake up was a note they found in their fantasy world. It would tell them about their condition and tell them to wake up. Even then, it would often take months until they were ready to discard their fantasy world and please wake up. There was a hunter in the woods who, after a long day hunting, was in the middle of an immense forest. It was getting dark, and having lost his bearings, he decided to head in one direction until he was clear of the increasingly oppressive foliage. After what seemed like hours, he came across a cabin in a small clearing. Realizing how dark it had grown, he decided to see if he could stay there for the night. He approached and found the door ajar. Nobody was inside. The hunter flopped down on the single bed, deciding to explain himself to the owner in the morning. As he looked around the inside of the cabin, he was surprised to see the walls adorned by several portraits, all painted in incredible detail. Without exception, they appeared to be staring down at him, their features twisted into looks of hatred and malice. Staring back, he grew increasingly uncomfortable. Making a concerted effort to ignore the many hateful faces, he turned to face the wall, and exhausted, he fell into a restless sleep. The next morning, the hunter awoke. He turned, blinking in unexpected sunlight. Looking up, he discovered that the cabin had no portraits, only windows. A young girl is playing in her bedroom when she hears her mother call to her from the kitchen, so she runs downstairs to see what she needs. Halfway down the stairs, the young girl hears her mother's voice calling softly from above, "Don't go down there. I heard it too." So she calls her mom to find the real one, and she answers, "Honey, is this important? I'm in a meeting at work." Then the little girl calls the police, and the operator tells her that her mother just died in a tragic echo chamber accident. The operator has her mother's voice. She runs toward the door to leave the ghosts behind. She stops cold at the mirror by the door, seeing her mother's reflection looking back at her. Coffins used to be built with holes in them, attached to 6 feet of copper tubing and a bell. The tubing would allow air for victims buried under the mistaken impression they were dead. Harold, the Oakdale gravedigger, upon hearing a bell, went to go see if it was children pretending to be spirits. Sometimes it was also the wind. This time it wasn't either. A voice from below begged, pleaded to be unburied. "You Sarah O'Bannon?" "Yes," the voice assured. "You were born on September 17, 1827? "Yes." "The gravestone here says you died on February 19th. "No, I'm alive, it was a mistake. Dig me up, set me free." "Sorry about this, ma'am," Harold said, stepping on the bell to silence it and plugging up the copper tube with dirt. "But this is August. Whatever you is down there, you ain't alive no more, and you ain't comin' up." "Daddy, I had a bad dream." You blink your eyes and pull up on your elbows. Your clock glows red in the darkness. It's 3:23 a.m. "Do you want to climb in bed and tell me about it?" "No, Daddy." The oddness of the situation wakes you up more. You can barely make out your daughter's pale form in the darkness of your room. Why not, sweetie? Because in my dream, when I told you about the dream, the thing wearing mommy's skin sat up. For a moment, you feel paralyzed. You can't take your eyes off of your daughter. The covers behind you begin to shift. Baby, you just shut your mouth. David Bowie erupts from the covers, tossing your dead wife's skin aside like one of his famous stage costumes. David Motherfucking Bowie. You and your daughter scream in unison. This ain't rock and roll, this is genocide. He screams, materializing a flaming guitar out of the ether and into his hands. He proceeds into a jam session that results in a horrific block fire, killing 37 people. It was hailed by Rolling Stone as the greatest concert of the decade. During the summer of 1983, in a quiet town near Minneapolis, Minnesota, the charred body of a woman was found inside the kitchen stove of a small farmhouse. A video camera was also found in the kitchen, standing on a tripod and pointing at the oven. No tape was found inside the camera at the time. Although the scene was originally labeled as a homicide by police, an unmarked VHS tape was later discovered at the bottom of the farm's well, which had apparently dried up earlier that year. Despite its worn condition and the fact that it contained no audio, police were still able to view the contents of the tape. It depicted a woman recording herself in front of a video camera, seemingly using the same camera the police found in the kitchen. After positioning the camera to include both her and her kitchen stove in the image, the tape then showed her turning on the oven, opening the door, crawling inside, and then closing the door behind her. 8 minutes into the video, the oven could be seen shaking violently, after which point thick black smoke could be seen emanating from it. For the remaining 45 minutes of video, until the batteries in the camera died, it remained in its stationary position. To avoid disturbing the local community, police never released any information about the tape, or even the fact that it was found. Police were also not able to determine who put the tape in the well, nor could they explain why the skeleton pulled from the oven was of completely different height and stature than the women in the video. I'm pretty freaked out. That thing has been there for almost a week. The figure in the window. It looks featureless, only skin on a human frame, and it's pressing itself against the glass somehow. I don't know how it got there, and I don't know how to get rid of it. At first I thought it was a prank, a dollar mannequin that some jerks put there to scare me. But I realized as I walked out of my house to pull it away it wasn't there. I shrugged it off, thinking that someone had hidden it while I was walking through my door. But I went back in and looked out that same window, and it was looking in, staring at me. I walked around my house, yelling for whoever it was to come out, but no one was there. The thing is hairless and naked, and it didn't look like it actually had eyes, or even a face at all. But its head is turned towards me when I enter the room. When I sit on my computer, I can feel its faceless hatred boring into my neck. But when I turn around, it's innocently turned in a different direction. Finally on Thursday, I tried to open the window, but it's stuck. I think the thing's hands are keeping it down. But I got a good look at its face. Its eyes and mouth are behind the skin, pushing outward. It stared at me, smiling. I pulled back a fist and smashed it onto the glass, determined once and for all to get rid of the glaring monster. I know I'm strong enough. That glass should have cracked. But it didn't. It shuddered under my hand, but it didn't break. And that smile just got whiter and whiter and whiter until I thought its head would break in half. It raised its own hand and bashed the window with its palm. It was mocking me. But I saw the faintest crack begin to appear where it had hit, and I backed away. No way did I want that smile in the same room as me. So I got a roll of duct tape and I started covering the window. I couldn't look directly at it, I nearly crapped my pants just knowing it was watching me. But I couldn't help it. I took a quick glance at that skin-covered face. A small peek. It was angry. That menacing grin was now a gaping frown full of teeth. The skin had ripped away from its mouth, and I could see down its cavernous throat. A menacing rumble started to fill the house, and that hairline crack began to spread like splintering ice. I pulled down the duct tape. The rumble stopped, the split skin healed over, and it began to smile again. Now it's night, and the noise hasn't started again. There are no sounds, no rumble, no crackling glass. Everything's quiet now. But I can feel its claws gripping the back of my chair. I can hear its skin stretching as it smiles. It's watching me type. Thanks for watching. What did you think of the story time? Let me know in the comments below. If you liked the video, smash that like button and subscribe so you don't miss any more story times.